Joel Embiid one-on-one is not fair because he just got Cornette inside posterized and then comes back with the block.
MVP chance here in South Philadelphia.
Now, I know you don't have a vote,
no.
But if you have a gut, is this the year that Embiid gets it?
I think he's the MVP.
I think he is too.
Get a behind-the-scenes look at pro wrestling.
You want to talk about when I was saying and preaching about moving the goalposts? The reason I asked that question was for the simple fact that what I'm saying is I don't know the criteria no more. I don't know if it's because it's the number 1 seed. I don't know if it's the number 6 seed. I don't know how you judging it. Is if we judging off of advanced stats or who's the most valuable player? You take them off this team. We don't know. We don't know, but we do know this. Since you do want to bring it up, we do know this, that when it comes to MVP voting, 80% of the voters are white American. 20% are others.
It took a Perkins to yell out the truth, the obvious truth. I didn't say Perkins, I say a Perkins. Any person that speaks the truth will do. In this case, it was Perkins who changed the narrative. The narrative was very simple just a few weeks back. The Joker was on his way to his 3rd consecutive NBA MVP. Just that simple. Just 3 weeks ago, the Joker was clearly on his way to a 3rd consecutive NBA MVP. Until Perkins spoke this over the airwaves, announcing that the majority of the MVP voters all look like Joker. To the tune of 80% of the voters look like the Joker. And for those that pushed back on those facts, never provided their own set of stats. For those that pushed back on his narrative, they never confirmed or contradicted with their own information. Perkins works for ESPN. He is prepped before he speaks. Information is given to him on the topics which he is to speak on. Unless he went off code and went rogue, I'm led to believe that those stats bear truth, even if they are not as high as 80%. What are they? 79%, 78%, 75, 70, 65, 60%. The point being by Perkins was that the majority of the voters all look like the Joker. That was his point. Let's be clear on that one right there. And it took a Perkins to speak that truth to begin to change the narration, to change the critique, to change the opinion of the NBA analyzers. So now many of them are co-signing with Embid as the MVP. You even have current players such as Curry and Lillard all co-signing for Embid as the MVP. Over here, we spell MVP with the EMVP because we believe that Embid was qualified and should have won an MVP trophy by now. But after Perkins revealed some truth into the process of the NBA MVP voting, to the tune of up to 80% of the voters all look like the Joker, that begins to help explain as to why Embiid is still MVP-less. This is disrespectful to the game and to the process of work. I've been watching the NBA over 3 decades. I know the politics that go into the MVP candidacy, but it's usually evened out in the end. Players who play well for consecutive years, they usually get their MVP in due time. It's clearly Embiid's time. If he does not get the MVP this year, and I trust that he will, because the narration, the narrative, the domain of discourse has been changed, and current players and former players have all fallen suit because they understand the outrageousness of a Joker winning 3 consecutive MVPs. Even when Bird and other players won 3 consecutive MVPs, they were at the height of their career contending for rings and things, chasing championship chips. And now we have a guy in the Joker who's not even held to the standard of chasing a championship, but just held to the standard of collecting MVPs. That's why Perkins called it out. It's an MVP bias. When you talk about Embid, the MVP, you're talking about how he must step his game up to dominate, to become a contender, to win an NBA championship title. When you're talking about Joker, you're not talking about titles. You're talking about just the rewarding of NBA MVPs. Many people at that time pointed to Perkins as a clown, as a buffoon for making such statements. However, as weeks have gone by, we begin to see the validity of Perkins' statements resonating through the fan base, through the NBA analyzers, and now even through the media, as they have to co-sign with what other professional players are saying. Stats is one thing. An eye test is something completely different. My eyes tell me Embiid is the most dominant player, as spoken by Kenny Smith, as ignored by Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley. You hear what I say? Kenny Smith was on live television stating, this is before Perkins comments, which helped change the narrative greatly. Kenny Smith spoke that Embiid was having the most dominant season this year, right before the All-Star break. And he was saying that Embiid was the most dominant player in the NBA. Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley ignored his comments. They immediately went to break. Cut! That's how that went down. And then Perkins stuck his neck out, spoke some bold and blatant truths, received much pushback without facts, and now the narration or the narrative is now changing in real time. I think that's about it today, family. Please be well. Please subscribe. Please share the information. That's the Daily Juice. But yeah, over here, family, we are pro-player, not pro-plantation. Embiid for the MVP. We give Joker his props for those 2 consecutive MVPs, but that's where it has to stop.